Today, the program is on Camp Quest West. David Diskin is presenting. Camp Quest is a national organization whose local affiliates provide week-long summer camp programs to children in secular families. With over a dozen locations throughout the United States, including two in California, they are the only national organization that is focused on children of the secular movement. David Diskin, president of Camp Quest West, here in California, will present an overview of Camp Quest West and their week-long program that combines traditional outdoor all-American fun with interactive science activities that help kids become familiar with skepticism, the scientific method, and humanist philosophies. I've had the pleasure of serving on the staff the past 2 years, and it's a wonderful experience. So, Dave.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to anyone about Camp Quest. It's something that I'm certainly passionate about. And, let's see there. Yep, we're good. I don't know why that's up there on the side though. Okay, good, cool. But I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to people about Camp Quest. I first got involved with Camp Quest in 2000. The summer prior to that, I was down in Burbank at the American Atheist Alliance International big conference in Burbank, and I had come across a small table, kind of like this one down in front of me, and well, our marketing wasn't as good back then, but and it was just one woman, Chris Lindstrom, some of you know her, asking for volunteers to come help out at this summer camp thing. And this was just about maybe 3 months after I had really started to get into the skeptic and humanist and atheist movement. I had just finished Dawkins and Harris and was learning about national organizations. I had just met Roy Speckhard a couple minutes earlier, and when I found out that Camp Quest has a location that's just like an hour and a half from where I live in Lodi, California, I was so charged to be a part of this. I'm like, this is really cool. Okay, so I've never been camping before, except for like, overnight, but I've never done like the week-long camping. I've certainly never did that as a kid. But I love science, and I do appreciate the outdoors, and I want to learn to appreciate it more, and the environment, and all the skeptic stuff and humanist stuff was really just new to me at the time, but I was thrilled to learn more about it. And the opportunity to have kids, because I don't have any, was really appealing to me as well. I'm one of those people who doesn't plan to have kids, but for 1 week out of a year, I can handle 100 of them. And so I figure that's kind of like, if you average it out over the course of the year, it's like having 2 kids a week, right? Anyway, but it really is an awesome opportunity to come and talk to you a little bit about something that's so passionate to me, and about 50 to 60 other volunteers just here in California every year, Camp Quest West. So thanks for inviting me here. And I want to start off with this letter. I won't read you the whole thing, but this was written by a 9-year-old to our national organization. She had attended one of our Camp Quests, I think it's the one in Minnesota, and after this wrote this beautiful letter. I'm sure her mom or dad helped her write it, but the part that gets me is the quote that says, when she was at Camp Quest, she didn't feel judged once, which happens a lot at school and even at home. She's an atheist and probably a humanist, and she was enrolled in camp, and the entire week that she was there, she felt like she could be her. Maybe that means to her spiritually or scientifically, or if she was in her teens, maybe that even means that she's discovering her sexuality, but she could be whoever she wanted to be when she was at camp. And from this quote, it sounds like this is someone who gets judged. Maybe she's being judged by her peers at school, or the teachers, maybe the principal, maybe others in her family, her sisters that are older, maybe her parents perhaps, grandmothers, grandfathers, who knows? And I'm sure you guys, just like I do, as a non-believer, as a non-religious person, you probably have your moments where you feel judged, and you come to places like this where you don't have to worry about that. And so I love Camp Quest for me because it gives me a chance to get outside, to do the science thing and to help out kids. But what I really love is it gives kids an opportunity to be who they are, to learn, and to make friends in the secular community that aren't going to judge them. They're not going to tell them that they have to pray. They're not going to tell them that they're going to hell. They're not going to tell them what to think. We'll help them learn how to think, but we'll not tell them what to think. And so that's a little bit about the passion that drives every one of our volunteers, like Greg and myself and hundreds of others. So I want to start off telling you a little bit about a day in the life of Camp Quest, just to sort of get you kind of in the camp mood. I'm not going to have you sing any camp songs, don't worry about that. But maybe if there was more room in the chairs, I'd have you stand up and do something silly. But let's just kind of learn a little bit about it. Both of our facilities here in California are up in the hills. I'll show you a map a little later, but they're at least 4,000 feet up, and they have gorgeous views at night. Greg has seen them. As long as it's a cloudy, or not a cloudy day, right? Or night, you can see the stars. In fact, the picture that's in the background there is from camp. And this, of course, was taken at our Southern California location. It's so cool to be outside and connected with nature and all the bugs and wild animals, and to let the kids run around and scream, which is something they don't get to do very often. Both of our camps, now that we've grown in California, we had over 100 children in each location this recent summer. And so here we are, just kind of out. There's you can't see it, but off of the frame is a little sort of a faux campfire. But yeah, how many of you guys have been to camp, like a week-long kind of camp or a couple-day extended weekend? So you know the kind of stuff that we're talking about. We're doing the archery, right? And thank you for helping us with that last year. We do the team building games where you hold each other's wrists and you're all tangled up and try and get yourself out into a circle, these icebreaker type things. We do the music, of course, and one of the neatest things about Camp Quest is introducing kids to people that they probably would have never met. And this is Lizzie Campbell, who was with us a few years ago. She's from the UK, and she saw an opportunity to come out here to California to volunteer with us, made it part of her trip, and just exposing kids to people who have awesome accents and who say evolution instead of evolution is really fun. But we do the music and the getting kids to sing along and all those cheesy camp songs and all that kind of stuff. So all of that is fun. A lot of you know Chris Lindstrom. She's the founder of Camp Quest West, and she is still very much involved. She's not on the board anymore, but with the year-long planning, the strategic planning, she does definitely play a big role, and we're so thrilled to have her with us. But like every camp, we have activities and exercises and all kinds of fun stuff, and kids yelling and screaming and counselors yelling and screaming. We have a giant pool to swim in, and yes, we have the camp songs, and our camp songs are a mix of your traditional camp stuff, but we also throw in a couple Humanist and science and, little Monty Python, and it's a mix of a lot of fun things that we kind of bring together. And there's, of course, the campfires and the skits. I know a lot of you remember the skits. And so here we have a bunch of our older kids getting ready to do a skit. They're all kind of dressed up, kind of fun. Arts and crafts, right? You get the t-shirts and you decorate them with the paint and the glitter and the glitter and all the other stuff that we do. But we're nerds, and so I remember specifically last year, one of the activities that we had for the kids was, some of you will appreciate this, make your own sonic screwdrivers. Yeah? You guys know what that is? Good. These kids get so into this. It's so much fun. And astronomy. This is Liz. She's a middle school, public school teacher out of Davis, and she's one of those people that you take her out at night, and if there's a clear sky, she can point to every single constellation and tell you what it is and all about the history of it, and she can explain, just like Neil deGrasse Tyson on Cosmos, every astronomical thing and concept and theory that's out there. And we're so thrilled to have her. She actually volunteers not just at our Northern and Southern California camps, but last year she went to Texas, and this year she went to Seattle, And just she's a 3-weeker, which is really, really awesome. So that's Liz. And then, we do downtime stuff too. Here's some kids playing chess and board games and checker, and we were talking about just other kinds of fun board game type activities. Of course, there's camp food. You guys remember the camp food, right? I am happy to say that our camp food is actually pretty good. And we definitely, because of the way our movement is, a lot of us, how many of you guys are vegetarian or vegan? Yeah, a couple of you are. And so it turns out that at Camp Quest, about 10%, 15% of our children are vegetarian and vegan. A couple of them have gluten sensitivity, but our folks that do the cooking, just a phenomenal job. I don't know if you've ever had to cook for 150 people 3 times a day for a week. How he's able to, or just orders the supplies, just baffles me. That's a logistics thing that I don't even want to tackle. But the food is just amazing. And there's sing-alongs, karaoke, all that kind of stuff. And of course, there's the wildlife. This was taken in Southern California. Northern California, we had a deer a couple of years ago. Allegedly, there's bears. We haven't seen any yet. We try not to scare the children too much. But there's raccoons, there's snakes, there's all that kind of stuff. Not too far away from the campground, because it is actually a pretty nice campground. We rent it for the week from the Lions Club in both Northern and Southern California. And they're just phenomenal to work with, but it's actually a nice campground. You can look it up online. In Northern California, it's Camp Ross Rellis, up in Nevada City, and it's got a giant lodge that seats most of us, plus the deck, if you do that, then all of us, for meals. And there's cabins. There's about a dozen cabins, and each cabin seats has about 10 or 11 beds. There's a giant softball field, there's a giant basketball court, and a pool, and an archery range, and all this other open space. It's a really nice facility. In some ways, because of our wildlife friends. So that's the all-American part of Camp Quest, right? But there's also the other half, which is the science, the skepticism, the peer review, the critical thinking, the humanism, the leadership stuff that we teach. And this is what makes us different. You can send your kid to any all-American camp, right? But to have that infused with what we do on the other side of things, the free thought type activities that we do. It's about 2 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day or so, and that's really what sets us apart. So what I want to ask you first, who remembers some of your favorite teachers, like in high school? A couple of you do? Yeah? And what made those teachers different? Why did they become your favorite? Is it because they just let you have an easy A? Well, maybe, but probably not. Did they challenge you a little bit? Did they maybe make learning more fun? Did they find creative ways to express the curriculum instead of just rote memorization, right? Did they engage children, you as a child, did they engage you and have you work with your peers and problem solve and all of that kind of stuff? Or was it just boring textbook workbooks type stuff? It was probably the first, right? The former. Well, that's what we try and do at Camp Quest. We try to make learning fun. And we certainly encourage learning of all different kinds, but we want to admit that if it's fun, they're going to retain the information a little bit better, just like you guys probably did when you were in school, right? And it doesn't matter if you're an adult, it doesn't matter if you're a kid, if you can find a way. I do training for a living, and I teach people how to use Microsoft Office. Okay, but I try and have fun with it. I try and make sure that my students learn Microsoft Excel and their keyboard shortcuts and their formulas. And there's ways to do that no matter what you're teaching. Right? If we want to teach someone about the age of the universe, or how huge the solar system is and how far apart these planets are, there's some really cool ways that we can do that. And you've probably seen that, right? I'm sure you've all seen the example of getting a bunch of kids on one end of the playground, and you plop down a flag or somewhere, and you have a kid stand there and they're the sun, right? And maybe you give them a little name tag that says sun, or you give them a big giant yellow ball. And then you have someone walk like 2 feet away, and there's Mercury, right? And you give them like a little tiny little ball to hold up, a little marble, or probably not even a marble, but right? And they have a little flag that says Mercury, and then you walk a couple more feet, if that, and there's, you know, Venus, and then you do it again for Earth, and by the time you get to like Jupiter, you realize that you've run out of playground, right? And then you, of course, inevitably make the joke that, okay, whoever is Saturn needs to go out to Sacramento, and then whoever is Uranus and Neptune, sorry, you're just not even in the state anymore. And Pluto, we can all joke about Pluto. Do we count it? Do we not? But there's ways to make learning fun and memorable and interactive, and that's what we try to do. And so, yeah, when you last learned through questions, right? When you last learned through interacting, that was probably the way that you retain the information the most. If you listen, you get information, but if you are told to interact, if you're told to ask questions, if you're told to participate in some way, and we flip that chart around, then listening becomes a small portion of it, questions and interaction become a big part of it, and that's how you learn. And when we do this kind of learning, we look at different ways that we can make the learning fun, and one of those is through music. One of those is through arts and crafts. One of them is through context, and the other one is through team building and team games type stuff. And so our activities, when we're teaching children about evolution, or about how fossils are discovered and then put together to try and resemble the skeleton of what once was, there's fun ways to do that. You know, maybe it involves a giant kiddie pool, and inside the kiddie pool is some fossils and a bunch of dirt, and that you tell the kids to go in and reach in and pull something out. And maybe it's like a relay, so there's some speed involved. They can't just kind of dig around forever. They're racing to see who can build the skeleton first, and you got 2 different teams and 2 different pools of fossils. But these kids are a little bit smarter than that, so we can make it a little bit more complex. Maybe when they find a piece, maybe they have to, on a graph paper, write down the coordinate of where they found that piece. Because maybe we put them in the dirt in clumps and clusters, so that these bones go to this animal and these bones go to this animal, and hopefully if they do their work right, maybe a little peer review with the other team perhaps, or peer review with each other, share their information, maybe they can figure out how to put these dinosaurs or whatever they are back together in a competitive and fun way that's also interactive. And so that's what we try and do. Maybe we teach kids to write a song or a limerick or a haiku about whatever it is that we're talking about. Maybe we talk about leadership skills, and we don't talk about the boring leadership stuff that I'm sure you all have gone through, and so have I in our workforce. But we ask them, what kind of leader is Darth Vader, right? What kind of leader is Superman? Oh, he's kind of a loner. What kind of leader is, I don't know, someone else, right? Who else has leaders that they want to talk about? And what category, how can we clump these leaders together? And how can we sort of describe them? And are all leadership types good? Are there good kinds, bad kinds? Are there just different ways of doing things? And maybe what kind of leader now are you? Or we can talk about religion too. You know, we don't tell kids that there is no God. We don't tell kids that Christianity is right or wrong. But we talk about religion in the same way that you might at a world religions type class, introduction to religion. And let's talk about the 10 Commandments. And maybe we take all the commandments, not just the ones found in the Torah, but all the commandments from humanism. So you have your poster down here that I apologize for covering up. You got your different religions and different groups, different societies. Let's take a handful of them, mix them all together, put them on index cards, and spread them out to all the kids, and have them read them and talk about them. And maybe try and identify which cultures they come from, or which ones are good, and which ones aren't so good. Which ones have we evolved beyond, and which ones can we keep or expand upon? Or, my favorite part, which ones would you write? If you were writing a Bible, if you were God, if you were just the president, or leading a society, or the whoever, what would you come up with? And they come up with some great ones. You know, don't eat each other. Help the planet, something about Justin Bieber or Minecraft or whatever else. You get the idea. And context is a big part of things too. I want to talk about context specifically. If we can give them a scientific lesson, but put it in a world that is exciting to them, then it becomes more than just a scientific lesson. And so a couple years ago, this was our theme. The philosophical phoenix versus zombie logic. As a kid, as a 9-year-old or even a 15-year-old, what's drawing you into that? Oh, the word zombie, probably, right? It's Halloween yesterday. And philosophical phoenix, maybe I don't know what that means, but I'm about to find out. And do I want to be a philosophical phoenix? Or do I want to use zombie logic and follow the herd and not pay attention to my surroundings and, I don't know, bleed over everyone? And so if we can put games and activities and learning into this kind of context, then great. You know, there's an exercise that we did a couple years ago where we wanted the kids to understand more about the scientific process, about peer review, critical thinking, presenting your data, all of that kind of stuff, and trial and error specifically. Create a hypothesis, see if it works, throw it out if it doesn't. And they had to take these PVC pipes that had inside them a combination of pulleys and ropes and washers, and you couldn't see inside because they were closed, but they had to replicate the way that the cords would pull. Maybe you've seen something like that before. But without being able to see inside, you had no clue. But if you could somehow replicate it with a hypothesis and then try it out, you could figure out if it worked or not. And so in terms of teaching this with context, we made up this extremely elaborate scenario, this role play, where this thing, this PVC pipe, was actually an energy generator cylinder, something, flux capacitor, whatever. And it was beamed from the future to today, to Camp Quest, to Nevada City. And they knew in the future that if only these kids today could solve this problem, that we would fix the energy problems for the future. And of course, you know, we had the lab coats and the goggles and all of that kind of stuff. And whenever the kids went up to talk, we made them put the lab coat on. And it wasn't just learning how to do this, it was being engaged and being a part of it. And so that's kind of the stuff that we want to teach. It's pretty fun. When we did a lesson on logical fallacies, we tied it in with zombie terms and, you know, just kind of had fun with it. It became a bingo of sorts. We would say a phrase, a sentence, read something short that would contain a logical fallacy, and the kids were playing bingo to try and identify the logical fallacy, except we didn't call it bingo, we called it zombo, because it's zombies. Anyway, that was fun. You've never heard kids get excited about ad hominems and straw man arguments before until you add zombies to it. So if you're trying to do that with your kids at home, that's how you do it. Just throw in zombies to anything. Dinosaurs, they love that stuff. We want to empower the kids to teach. This is part of the scientific method as well, to express what they've learned, to share what they've learned with other people. And we give kids numerous opportunities to address their peers and talk about stuff. And it's really exciting to see 8-year-olds right up there with 15, 16, 17-year-olds sharing what they've learned and being positive and recognizing that they're doing this public speaking kind of thing. And so we do all kinds of scientific stuff. Here we're learning about how gravity affects water and how the ancient Egyptians were able to build such straight pyramids when they didn't have laser levels and all that. This is Ross. Ross is mixing stuff together, trying not to blow anyone up. And you may recognize Ross. You probably recognize his voice from the podcast Oh No, Ross and Carrie. Is one of our counselors in Southern California. This is Richard Wade, also from Southern California, that comes up to Northern and Southern California to do just amazing demonstrations on dinosaurs and fossils and astronomy and volcanoes and plate tectonics and all that kind of stuff. We have a lot of fun with what we do. We dress up as gypsies and tell the kids that the nickel that they've got strapped to their forehead is producing iron and magnetic waves that make them smarter. And then we test them to see if they can exhibit some form of ESP. And we've got the kids without it and the kids with it. And we lie to them that the kids with it did better than the kids without it. And we watch them try and understand what just happened when they think that ESP isn't real. And then we show them with data that it is, illustrating the point that sometimes data is wrong, sometimes people lie as well. And so it's a real fun activity to throw the kids for a loop on that one. And then we, of course, explain to them later on what happened. They're a little mad at us, but it's a lot of fun. It's a blast. We teach kids how to be activists and leaders as well. And again, playing true to our idea of not teaching them what to think, just how to think, we don't care what they become activists in. And in our examples here where they're staging a protest, they're protesting blinky shoes and doing homework and eating your vegetables. But that doesn't matter because they're making t-shirts and bumper stickers and coming up with catchy slogans and working together as a team with all these different age groups and ethnicities and genders working together for a common cause, like you shouldn't be able to wear roller skate shoes to school because you might trip. Or maybe it's the opposite argument and they're angry about that limitation and their freedoms being taken away. And every now and then the flying spaghetti monster does make an appearance. So that's how we kind of mix the fun outdoor stuff along with the free thought, science-y, leadership, activism stuff. So I'm going to give you just the boring stuff now. This is a map of the United States. That's all of our locations nationwide. We just launched Colorado this summer, and not on the map because that's how new it was, Oregon also. Of course, you see Seattle up there, Arizona, 2 in California. I'll zoom in on those in a second, and several others throughout the United States. This all started on the East Coast, and Camp Quest National is headquartered in Ohio, in Columbus, literally the same building as the Secular Student Alliance. And overseas, although they're not officially related to us, we have 2 camps in the United Kingdom as well. We allow them to use the name, they're just not officially part of our organization. But we have a really awesome milestone that we reached just this summer, and in 2015, nationwide, over 1,000 campers. And that's pretty awesome considering we started 20 years ago with 1 camp with like 5 or 6 kids. That's big growth. Now, Camp Quest West, California, we started 10 years ago. This is our 10th anniversary. It's National's 20th anniversary. So here's what California looks like. We started off in 2006 with, I think it was like 15, 20 campers, something like that. And most recently in 2015, we reached 209 campers this summer. I'm sure you noticed a little fire icon down there. That was it wasn't our fault. The campground that we rented was next to a large fire. And it happened before we got there, but the smoke was so bad we had to cancel the camp. We learned a valuable lesson that year called insurance. But we were so small it was okay anyway. We now have event insurance. This is a thing. If your event gets canceled because of acts of God, I know, right? Then you can still function and pay everyone back or find another camp. So we have that now. But despite that, despite losing everything not literally everything, but despite losing the venue in 2008, we have seen significant steady growth. And just from last year to this year, grew 20% in just 1 year. And we expect to do that again in the following years. So here's a little close-up here. There's San Jose kind of down there in the corner there at the end of that little brace. And if you were to drive it, not as the crow flies, but the actual drive, it's about 3 hours. From here in San Jose up to our Nevada City camp. Basically, it's just like you're going to Sacramento. and a little bit further, an extra hour or so. In Southern California, if you're curious, our camp is in Wrightwood, which is up in the Angeles Mountains near Hesperia, probably about 30 minutes away. Or if you're in Riverside, it's about a 45-minute drive as if you're going to Barstow, but far shorter than that. And those are our two California locations. So in 2015, as a review, it's a 7-day camp. We start on Sunday. Parents pick their kids up on Saturday. It's a great vacation for the parents. I told you we had 209 campers in Northern and Southern California combined. That was up from 174. And our ratio of campers to counselors, to volunteers, is 3.1. And so, you know how teachers, I think you're going into teaching, you're probably going to end up in a room with like 20 kids to one teacher, 30 kids to one teacher, 3 children to one, well, 3.1 children to every one counselor. It's a pretty great supervisionary ratio there. In terms of our demographic ethnicity breakdown, the majority, almost 2/3, are white. But I'm really proud that almost 1/3 of our campers aren't, right? I mean, look around the room. This is something that we have been struggling with in the free thought, humanist, and skeptic and atheist communities for a long time now. Camp Quest is almost, or at least West, is nearly 1/3 not white. And the majority of that, we have 8% East Asian, 5% Black, 9% Latino, and so on. If you're curious about gender, it's almost exactly 50-50, right down the middle. And in fact, this year, in Northern California especially, it was exactly 50-50 because of the way the cabins are split up. For those of you who like numbers, this is our 2014 expenses, and our financial report is right down in front of me. We haven't wrapped up 2015 yet, of course, but we're almost ready to do that. So this is a look at last year, and I'm so proud that 89% of every dollar we spent went to program. And you can look at the chart, you can see that $75,000 of that went to food and lodging. It takes a lot of food to feed 260 people, counselors and adults, for 5 weeks, or for 7 days. Program expenses, of course, those are your archery equipment, your arts and crafts, the PVC pipes that make up these fun things, all of that stuff. And down there under non-program, our biggest cost is actually just credit card processing fees. As we collect a lot of stuff online, we give PayPal something like 2% of that. We don't spend much at all on marketing, on registration costs, on fundraising, hardly any. Those are some thank you cards that go out. Some of you who are donors may have seen that, producing these financial reports and so on. But we don't spend a lot of money on anything else aside from the program, the safety and the staff development is training and all that Red Cross certification, CPR kind of things and so on. Now these accomplishments are from the last 2 years. We give away a lot of money in terms of what we call camperships. Every donation, in fact, that we receive gets put into this pool of money that we use to offset financial aid requests. When a family registers with us, they're given the option to pay exactly what it costs us to run the camp. We're a nonprofit organization, so we're not looking to make money. We'd like to be a little bit in the black for safety. But it cost us this summer $653 on average per camper. $653. And about a third, maybe a quarter of our parents were able to pay that. A quarter of them were. And then another half opted for a small discount of about $100, and we give that to them without asking any questions. So they paid $553. And then another quarter of those families asked for some kind of financial assistance, and we gave it to them. They paid anywhere from $100 up to about $500, depending on their capacity. They fill out a couple questions about their income and their number of dependents, and we gave out altogether just shy of $20,000 in subsidies and financial aid camperships. And all of that was because of donations from folks like you guys, folks from the free thought skeptical movement throughout California. And these numbers are just California, by the way. I'm not even showing you because I don't have all the numbers for national. By the time this gets put on YouTube, I fully expect that we're going to get the letter in the mail that makes us officially ACA accredited. They've told us verbally that we are good to go, and so no one jinx us yet, because it's not official till we get the letter. But Chris Lindstrom did an amazing job. And if you don't know what ACA, it's the American Camp Association. It's the gold star standard for making sure that your camp is up to par when it comes to things like safety and follow through and all the health stuff, and that your tires are checked every time you take the car out. We had a virtual campfire fundraiser just a couple days ago. Let people watch us online as we made full of ourselves in front of a fake fire. Took some donations. We've partnered quite well with local organizations like the American Humanist Association, Sunday assemblies throughout the state, and provided childcare and child activities during their events. And we were recently profiled by the LA Times. And you're going to see, I hope, within the next week, an awesome video article, a video piece that talks about Camp Quest and the diversity within Camp Quest West and the difficulties that atheist families who are also non-white have in their communities. And we reconditioned a van that was donated to us. It cost us about $9,000 to replace the engine and get new seats and new tires and all that kind of stuff. But we used to pay U-Haul $1,500 a year to rent a van for a month so we could have all our supplies and drive it up and down the state, and it would stay there for the week, and then we'd use it to drive kids back and forth for various activities. Now we have our own van. And so that was a big expense for us in terms of reconditioning that van. But now we're saving about $1,500, a little bit more every single year. So it'll pay off itself in about 6 years, which is fantastic. And I want to just kind of summarize this by taking you to the future a little bit of where Camp Quest is going. And if you think about this, literally, Camp Quest and our campers are the future of the secular movement and the humanist community. We have two major goals for this coming year, both of which we've already approved as a board. One is to hire our first employee, part-time, paying $18 an hour, and it's about $13,000 salary, and this part-time employee will be there for us several hours a day to answer phones, talk to parents about registration, thank donors, send out thank you cards, work with marketing and fundraising, and get things on Facebook, things that our board members like me and some of our others are doing right now that are kind of, now that we've got 200 campers, are kind of taxing us a little bit. It's more than any group of volunteers can handle. So one of the things we're big on doing is changing our budget around to accommodate that employee. We also, this summer, sadly had 6 kids who wanted to go to camp but couldn't because we filled up the Northern California facility. Literally had no more beds, unless they wanted to sleep outside, which is, we couldn't take them. And so we decided for this coming summer to run Northern California twice. Back to back, same facility, just right up against each other. Kids go home on Saturday, we get a little bit of time to re-gear, and then new kids come in on Sunday. And so that doubles the capacity in Northern California. Our Southern California venue is already huge. It'll seat up to 225 kids, which is fantastic. We're not there yet, but we will. So looking even further, in 2018, you guys are really like this. We want to commit to the Bay Area, the coast. We want to make Camp Quest a 4-hour drive from pretty much anywhere in California. And so right now, if you're in Santa Cruz, if you're in Bakersfield, it's a little bit of a drive. If you're in, especially when you consider traffic, right? So our goal in 2018 is to open up a Santa Cruz or nearby within, 10, 15 minutes of Santa Cruz, our third location, give it beach access so we can do beach-related activities, and of course, we'll have to charge a little bit more because Santa Cruz does come with a little bit higher price tag. We have a couple major national goals. National now, we want to hit 2,000 campers by the year 2020. We've got that set to go. That's a nice 13% growth each year and have 35 sessions nationwide. So in wrapping up, I want to just close real quick by saying how you can help. Number one, we need volunteers. If any of my passion has come through to you today in terms of helping kids learn about science and the great outdoors, come spend the week with us. Be a counselor. It's so much fun. We'll get you trained. You spend the whole week with us. You can also do other things. You can help us fundraise. You guys know people. Maybe they want to help us financially. You can host an event like we're doing today. Or just spread the word. Tell people about Camp Quest. You can learn more about us by visiting our website. You can go to Twitter and follow us, or Facebook and follow us. Sign up for our newsletter and learn what we're doing over the course of the year. If you have children, give them to us for the week. Take the week off. There's our weeks for Northern and Southern California, and we would love to have them. We've got the capacity now. But if you have financial capacity to help us with that campership program that I talked about for the families that can't afford to send their children to camp, who want to, then I would love some donations. You can support us in any number of ways, monthly or one time. You can put us in your will if you want to. We expect that 30 families will ask for financial assistance this year, and that's on top of our new expense with the new employee. And so we definitely want to be able to support every single child that asks for it. We expect it'll cost just under $700 this year to send one child to camp. And so we would love to see some people give camperships and help us out. And we are a 501c3 organization, so that your donations are entirely tax deductible. So in closing, Camp Quest is awesome. We're beyond belief. That's our phrase. We're friends, we're fun, we're free thought. There's pictures from Northern and Southern California. You can learn more at campquest.org. You can come check out some of our stuff up here. I'm going to be around for the afternoon to talk with you. And I guess we have a little bit of time for some questions. I think I may have gone over by maybe 5 minutes, but I am happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I think we have a microphone to walk around with. Bring them on. Give me some questions. Oh, and before I forget, thank you guys so much for having me here. Questions? Oh. In the back.
Okay. Please wait for the mic, please, yes.
Thank you so much for coming today and for the work that you're doing. It's so incredibly important. I grew up every summer in Vacation Bible School.
Jesus Camp?
Southern Baptist Jesus Camp. I had a working mom. She needed a place to put me. And it was the only place she could afford to put me. At its best, it was mind-numbingly boring. It was gluing macaroni to paper plates and spray painting it gold. Okay? At its worst, it was some of the most heinous bullshit indoctrination of my entire childhood.
Yeah.
They have your kids. You're not there. They have them trapped.
Yeah.
And they can tell them anything they want to. And where I grew up, Vacation Bible School was Jesus wants you to do this, Jesus doesn't want you to do that.
Right.
Jesus likes these people, Jesus does not like these people.
Yeah.
This is just, the work you're doing is so important. And as a child, to be able to have this kind of experience without sitting there having to listen to all of the religious nonsense. And to feel, as that child said, not being judged for being different.
Right.
And as we say in the South, bless your heart. This is just incredibly important work.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it.
Oh, thank you. And I didn't dwell on it too much, but for some of our children who live in the more rural areas of California, cities like Placerville and Turlock and kind of out near Barstow, Bakersfield, this is the 1 week that they get to hang out with other non-religious kids. Yeah, because some of our kids do go to Bible school, they go to Sunday school, they go to church. They're from a mixed family where you have a religious parent and a non-religious parent. And in some cases, there's custody issues and they're fighting over the child's spirituality. there are, like you said, a lot of resources for families who want to send their children to a religious camp, YMCA, Boy Scouts, and they're extremely inexpensive. Many of them are. And I look forward to a day when we can offer Camp Quest to everyone, and it's free and it's paid for by some government grant. Who knows? Who knows? But thank you for those kind words. Yeah, I think I saw someone else's hand go up. Maybe.
Whose hand went up? I didn't see it, so.
Oh, were there any other questions? All right. Oh, in the back.
Oh,
I'm not quite sure what secular means, what your mission is. There's
Sure.
plenty of quality, non-religious camps that do what you do and other things.
Right.
The only sense I get is almost anti-religious.
I wouldn't say that we're anti-religious in the sense that we are so welcoming and open to anyone who wants to come to our camps. But I think the difference is that the majority of the camps out there that you're talking about, especially a lot of the ones that come from a Jewish background, although they're more culturally Jew than they are religiously Jewish, they often focus on just either the great outdoors or their hardcore science programs. And there's very few that I'm aware of that kind of combine the two together in the sense that ours does. And that we focus our camp, certainly our marketing, specifically to non-religious families. Of course, anyone can come to our camp, and we do have children come that are from religious families. But in the sense that we market it specifically to those families who are non-religious, part of the secular community, it helps those kids feel like they can go to the camp and not even worry remotely about being proselytized or teased for who they are. They can come to the camp if they're gay, they can come to the camp if they're a minority, they can come to the camp if they're an atheist or not. And sadly, a lot of the other camps aren't nearly as inclusive as we are and as welcoming as we are, nor will they find the mix that we do. Not that we have a religious or spirituality mix, but certainly in other terms we do. And so I think that we offer something that is unique, but I wouldn't nearly ever say that we're anti-religious. We're not the parallel of Jesus camp. We're not the atheist camp. And a lot of times media likes to call us that. But if you look at what Jesus camp is, or camps like that, like the woman said, they are teaching the children what to think. They're telling them that you're going to hell. They're using fear. They're using punishment, and we don't do that at Camp Quest. We're going to teach them about science and this, the scientific method and humanist philosophies and world religion and leadership and so on. But we're not going to do it in the way that this is how it has to be, or you're going to hell. And nor do we idolize folks like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris either. So thanks for your question.
That's a very cool logo. How long have you had this infinity-based CQ?
Since the beginning, 20 years ago. The logo is recently refreshed, but it has always been the CQ Infinity logo. The founder of Camp Quest nationally, one of the founders, Edward Kagan, was big into ham radio, and he also liked that CQ. If you know what ham radio, CQ is one of the things that you say when you're trying to find someone to talk with on the air. And we even had a Morse code portion of our logo at some point, but that's phased out. But yeah, thank you for recognizing that it's the Infinity logo with a paintbrush. Yeah. In purple over here.
What kind of training and screening do you give to your counselors?
Fantastic question. Every single counselor, anyone who is on the facility more than a couple hours, which generally it's all the counselors that are there. For screening, we are required actually by California law to put them through the California Department of Justice, the same system that you would use if you volunteered at the local library, at a school, at a daycare, and so on. And so that checks their background. Not only does it check their background at that moment, but it also sends us an electronic note if a flag ever comes up later. So we register them once through that system, live scan, and never have to worry about that again because it'll keep an eye on them. We also do a number of background checks, reference checks, and we spend about 2 hours on the phone with each candidate before we accept them, talking to them about their experience, how they handle situations with children, and then we call their references to make sure that they're cool and everything's good there. For training, that's actually a much more of an answer. We are required again to have at least 2/3 of our counselors with Red Cross certification, CPR, and AED. And nearly all of our counselors go through that. You do it once every 2 years. And we put so many people through the program that we've actually gone and had some of our own counselors become Red Cross certified instructors. That way, it sounds great, but it's really just to save us a lot of money. Because once we put our people through the program, they can train our own people using the Red Cross materials at a fraction of the cost it would to send them out to a class. So we do that twice a year for our counselors that need the recertification. On top of that, when it comes to camp stuff, besides the health and safety, there's 2 days of training that's mandatory for each counselor. One is several months before camp, and one is the day before camp. And so that's about an 8 to 10 hour session of training where we talk about behavior, we talk about the logistics, the program, we talk about group work and icebreakers and camp songs and the whole gamut.
Where's that done?
In Lodi and in Los Angeles. And then we have, on top of all of that training and the Red Cross training, it's another 8 hours of mandatory online videos that they have to watch. And that's done by a national organization not affiliated with Camp Quest, but by a gentleman named Chris Thurber that does camp training for all different kinds of camps. And he and his business have put together just a wealth of information online and very cool videos and quizzes that we that we require our counselors to watch. Yeah, so thanks for that opportunity to answer that.
I want to mention that I am an Eagle Scout who worked very closely with the Scout program and Boy Scout program and helped my son's troop for 7 years while saying the pledges and such as I chose to. But I found an accepting parent-run troop that tolerated us. I'm so much happier to be working with a group that is welcoming of kids who wouldn't be welcome at a Boy Scout camp. And it's just a marvelous program. I've been able to pass on some of the things I learned to the kids and also pick up archery and help teach them archery as well. So I encourage anyone who wants to help plan programs, raise money, supervise the kids, please help out with it because it's a wonderful experience for the future of humanism.
Thank you so much, and thanks for volunteering as well. It's always good to have you there. Are there any other questions before we close out? Fantastic. Again, thank you guys so much for inviting me, having me come up down here to speak. Really do appreciate it. And if you ever want to get in touch with me, I've got business cards down there and all kinds of other information about Camp Quest and Camp Quest West. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of your meeting, and I look forward to talking with you during lunch. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dave.